anniversary of a TV show that we all grew up on. So I would like to bring the director up to tell us a little bit about this amazing film.
Thank you guys for being here. We're really excited to share this. You were the first audience that has seen this. I literally got the mix yesterday, like last night. I got the final thing, so we're down to the wire. Anyway, the cast is here. We're thankful for them. You're going to hear from them after this. I want to tell you that we've been working on this for about 3 years. Is kind of where the genesis of this happened. And part of that is a road trip that my family took in a minivan for 19 days from Virginia out to Yellowstone, and we stopped at all these little sites along the way, Mansfield being one on our way back through. And my daughter, who has loved Little House since she was very, very little, wanted to take these little stops, and I thought, she's going to be the only one out there with like a bonnet on. And we pull into one of these sites, and there's like 50 minivans, and all these little girls getting out. And I thought, what a cool thing to capture. We were able to connect with some of the cast, and so we spent the last year really going to all these places where Laura really lived and breathed with the cast, sharing their stories, sharing many of your stories, and bringing what we hope is just a beautiful tribute and love letter to Laura, and ultimately to the people that love Laura, the way that we do and the way that I know that you do. So we're going to watch the film. It's about 70 minutes, and then after that, we're going to have a Q&A, and Dean Butler's going to lead that with some of the cast, and we'll chat a little bit about the film. Thank you so much for being here.
I think it's so wonderful and appropriate that Little House Homecoming would have its world premiere here in Marshfield at the 2025 Cherry Blossom Festival. An event that really recognizes the American experience in a very special, unique way. And people come here. Nicholas invites people from all over America and beyond to come, but mainly, primarily America, to come and celebrate the American experience culturally, its history, its entertainment. And you're all here, and it's great that we can share this moment together. So sitting on the stage, Nicholas Inman, Jennifer Brawyer, Charlotte Stewart, Allison Arngrim, Wendy Lou Lee, and the director of Little House Homecoming, Jonathan Parker. I'm Dean Butler. I played Almanza Wilder in the series. And other members of our cast are sitting in the back. We just have our members of our cast who are actually talk in the film, and that's why we're up here. Jonathan, I want to start with you. Yes, it's on you now. It's all been on you, and now it's going to be on you for a few more minutes. I think your why story for the making of this film is really one of the most beautiful things about it, and I want you to share just a taste of that why.
So I would say we started showing Anna, who's in the back. Anna, will you wave?
Stand up.
And Joel is there. Joel will definitely wave. And we started showing the show to Anna, I think, prior to 3, maybe 2.5, 3, was just like, what's something kind of fun that we can watch that you know we can have on TV. And then she was a really early reader. She got books, and she just kind of fell in love to this. And she got a little bit more into it than just the books. She became like this little mini scholar, and she's reading Fraser, and she's reading Anderson, and all this stuff. She's really immersed in this. As I told you before the film started, we just took this road trip, and I thought, this is going to be like these little places, and it's just the coolest thing ever. And we wanted to create something that got other families in their minivans to go around the country and celebrate and see something that's very, very
beautiful and is very, very preserved and honors something that we care about. Like, you know, the documentary I did before this was a civil rights documentary. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be doing like a Lori Ingalls Wilder documentary if it wasn't for Anna and for Joel and Ben and their love for this. And I just think it represents something that is very joyful and hopeful and happy. And I joke with people who are working on the film, like, this is a documentary with like no drama. Like, it's just good stuff. And I think we need a little dose of that. And so we spent the last year in a 65, 70 nights in hotels riding around and seeing these really cool places. And it's just been a joy. It's been the time of a life.
Jonathan, thank you for doing it. You've done a beautiful job. Thank you. Nicholas, you have a very, this is Laura country. You have a very important role with the Laura Ingalls Wilder Museum. What does it mean to you to be at the center of preserving this history and sharing it with people all over the world?
Well, first, I think it's an awesome responsibility. I was first exposed to the Little House books as a third grader, and little did I know that someday I would be sitting behind the desk at the Wilder home. And I think it's also a privilege, because you watch the people that come through the doors and their interactions. I was just sharing with you just recently, one of my jobs is to answer the fan mail that still arrives for Laura. And just a few weeks ago,
Laura still gets fan mail.
Still receives fan mail,
Okay.
yes. Just a few weeks ago, received a letter from a little boy in California, and he was probably third, fourth grade, and they were given the assignment to write to their hero and invite them to school to dinner. And I had to call him and explain that his hero had been deceased since 1957, but those kind of interactions are so special, and for children to still be falling in love with history through the stories of Mrs. Wilder, I think is remarkable. So it's a privilege and a responsibility, one that I take seriously, as all of our staff does at Rocky Ridge. It's a privilege.
Thank you for doing it, Nicholas. Allison, you have been so at the center of keeping what we all did on the television series present for people wherever you go, and you do it in this irrepressible way. What has it meant to you? You see this, you see the love that people have for this as you watch Little House Homecoming. How does it speak to you?
Well, okay, first of all, I want to say this is the first time, because I was like, wait, is this the first time it's been shown to more than like two people in a room watching a computer screen? And so first time, audience, and I saw you stand up. Well, standing ovation. Nailed it. Okay. Yes. As I talked about when I started the show, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And as it's gone on, as I said, can't beat them, join them. There's, as actors, and as I said, especially for child actors coming, there's a big push and a lot of influence to say, oh, well, that was just that thing I did, and have sort of ambivalence about it. Should I talk about it? And at some point I said, I loved being on that show, and I loved being Nellie Olson, and I like the show, and I like the books, and what if I could just openly revel in that and publicly enjoy it? What if that was okay? And so here I am. And I just really enjoy it. And when people said, would you come out to, a million years ago, would you come out to this house in Mansfield where she was? And I was like, wait, this is her stuff, and this is her desk, and what is happening? And then, do you want to come to this place called Walnut Grove? I'm like, wait, there's really a Plum Creek, and I could go throw myself in it, and oh yeah. And that was it. And I've just been off to the races ever since. And now that it's just escalated into this thing. It's year 51. Yeah. We should be sitting at home. None of this should be happening. I'm just thrilled to death, and I when I see a good thing, I notice it and I latch on with both hands. So here I am. Thank you.
Charlotte, in a very real way, the way Jonathan structured this, you really are leading the audience through this story, and how appropriate that Miss Beadle is teaching, helping to connect the teaching experience of Laura. What you've talked about, I've heard you talk about this so many times. You tell these stories wonderfully, but what does it mean to you to be a part of this? And you've done so much work. Charlotte has had an amazing career. Little House, amazing 4-year involvement in Little House, and it's just been ever present in your life. What has it meant to you to be a part of this?
Oh my God. First of all, it's so good to see a lot of you I have seen for so many years, because we keep coming back here. You're so good to us. Thank you so much. Just thank you, Reverend, for having us back again. This is great. Years ago, when Allison called me one day and she said, we're going to go across country and meet some people and talk about Little House. And I said, why? She said, because people love us. And I said, they do? So that was the first trip. And when was that? About 25 years ago? Nebraska or something. I had never thought. Because when we were doing Little House on the Prairie, Hollywood was kind of poo-poo. What's that? Well, excuse me, where are their shows today? We're still on the air. It really opened my eyes. You know, I always loved, I was so proud of what I was doing, but you didn't get a lot of feedback in Hollywood. But, you know, thank you. You guys are just great. We love meeting you. We love going around the country. We love hearing your stories of your childhood and how our show influenced you. And I'm just very proud to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Wendy Lou Lee was Baby Grace. And just one of the most, you and your sister, two of the most adorable children ever on television. Just beautiful, and there was a sweetness about you.
Still is.
And yet,
I was going to say, still?
Still, yeah. You have been a wonderful representative of all of this, and as much as, you know, you barely said a word on the show.
That's it.
On the show, but yeah, you cried when you were, you know, fed oatmeal that it was too salty, and you know, you did those things, but you've really embraced Little House in a very, it's just a part of you. It's clearly a part of who you are and how you occur in the world. Tell us about what it has meant to you.
That's strange, but I do feel like Grace and I have this like connection. I don't know how, and I don't know how I'm this little tiny girl and then move away from Hollywood and don't see you guys for 23 years, and then all of a sudden reunited, and I think it's magical. I don't know how it all happened, and now I'm like, I can't even separate myself from Grace. It's beautiful. I don't know what to say. And I feel like watching that, I almost elbowed Jennifer and said, we were so blessed to be put on this show and not Married with Children. Because that's what was on. I think that's what was the same year that I got cast as this was Married with Children. We could have been, I don't know, this is, I'm blown away, but to be part of this.
You know, we represented a different time. I'm wondering I want to talk to Jennifer quickly. You know, talking about the relevance of the program, the ongoing relevance. I don't know how many of you read our industry trade papers. Probably not a lot here in Marshfield and in the Midwest. But last year, Little House had in its 50th anniversary year, streamed 13.3 billion minutes on Peacock. last year on NBC streaming service. That is 25,000 years of viewing in a single year. Now that tells you that there's a resonance for this material. I want to throw it out to, I just want to get to Jennifer. So Jennifer is part of this modern era. I met Jennifer Brollier at a Little House event a year and a half ago, and Jennifer has been doing my social media work, and now she is doing social media work for the owners of Little House on the Prairie in anticipation of the launch of the new series, which is coming on Netflix in 2026. Jennifer, you really are a youthful connection to what Little House is. Everything about you sort of connects to all this. What is Little House? In the modern world, you're a very active young person in our world. She's 26. What does Little House teach us today?
You know, it's so interesting because I'm so active on social media and I see all of these circles with homemaking, and there's this whole new generation of young people coming up that are just obsessed with the idea of slow living and going back to more simple ways. And so I think the reason that Little House on the Prairie is so relevant to even my generation and younger is there's these people, like somewhere in these generations, we kind of lost the art of creating and the art of doing slow things. Everything became very convenient, right? So it's so interesting to me, myself included, now as a young wife who has her own home, who wants to spend time in the kitchen creating recipes from the Little House cookbook and connecting with people and creating recipes and just really forming those relationships with people in such a really cool, unique way. And so I think that Little House on the Prairie, for our younger generation, it's really about coming back to simple living and creating those relationships through food, through laughter, through music, and it will, I think it will continue to live on forever. I really do.
It represents something, Little House represents something that is so fundamental for people, and it's basic fundamental truth. Laura wrote it that way. Michael Landon wrote his version of Little House that way. I want to just, if anyone wants to add anything, I want to open it up for an opportunity for a few questions, because we're going to have to stop here in about 10 minutes because of another event that's taking place in this room. After watching the film, any comments, questions that you'd like, sir?
I was kind of curious as to what it felt like to go back to the set and where you guys filmed it all last year.
Simi Valley?
Yeah.
Amazing. Of course, as Miss Beadle, I didn't get outside a lot. They kept me in the schoolroom, so it was wonderful to be out there. Thank you.
It was wonderful. I had been back a bit because over the years, be an interview out there, or the time we did an interview and Catherine McGregor and Richard Bull were there, and you were there, and you kept saying, "Where's the creek?" because you thought it was real the whole time. And, I had been back, and people said, "I want to see the ranch," so I'd call and get hold of someone, "Can I go up for a minute?" So I'd been there, but we had now the reasonable facsimile, our backdrops of all of our buildings, and the design, Olin is here, who made all that happen. And with, I got to go back with 18,000 of my closest friends. It was so crazy, and the buses doing tours. I remember thinking, well, one day we should have buses do tours of this. Oh, now we are. It was mind-blowing, and it was so strange because the area where the school is, I mean, in the Good Morning America, which was an interview thing we did, I stood in front of the school area and said, "This is where I fainted the first day." And then I fell down. I threw myself on the ground to demonstrate, because it was like, it's amazing. It is like going back to your junior high school campus or playground for me. It's a very strange experience.
I would say that the outdoors. Grace, she just being carried into church. So my favorite was the interiors and actually getting to walk into the little house and sit in this, not in the high chair, but in the chair that was where Grace sat. Like, it was emotional. Like, it was, I don't remember that much of it, but I remember watching it my whole life and thinking, wow, I mean, that was just, I mean, in the mercantile inside, I mean, you just had so much fun in there.
And they had
the
peppermint
schoolhouse
sticks for me.
Yes, ma'am. So the question is, how did Michael Landon get involved in Little House? It's a really fun story. I'll try and condense it. Edwin S. Friendly II was one of the executive producers of Laugh-In. I don't know how many of you remember Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. If you're of a certain age, you would remember Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. He had a daughter, Brooke, and one day Brooke was homesick from school, and before Ed was leaving for the office, he came in to say goodbye to Brooke and saw her reading one of the Little House on the Prairie books. And he said, "What are you doing? These are children's books." She was 15 years old. "Why are you reading these books?" "Daddy, these are my favorite books. I read them every year." Well, Ed was just flabbergasted by that. And he went out and saw his wife, Natalie, and said, "Brooke is in her bedroom reading the Little House books. Why isn't she reading something more grown up?" "Ed, I grew up on these books. I love these books. I've been telling you for years this would make a wonderful television series." Ed snuck a copy of the book the next day into his baggage, into his carry-on. He was flying to New York. He hid the book in a Wall Street Journal because he didn't want anyone to see that he was reading a children's book. He'd been so judgmental of his daughter reading a children's book, he couldn't be seen. He got off the airplane in New York, picked up the phone, called his lawyer, and said, "Find who owns these books. I've got to acquire this material." He hired a writer named Blanche Hanalis. It was actually, Blanche was the second writer. There was a first writer, didn't get it for Ed the way he wanted it. He hired Blanche. She was the one who really spun the original pilot together. One Sunday morning, Ed, Brooke now was 16 years old and driving. They lived in Beverly Hills. "Brooke, I want you to drive this script up to Michael Landon's house." Michael lived on Tower Road in Beverly Hills. So they were relative neighbors. Brooke drives through the streets of Beverly Hills on a Sunday morning and slips the script into Michael's mailbox and comes home. And they wonder what's going to happen. Well, that afternoon, the phone rang at the Friendly house. Michael Landon on the phone. He introduces himself. "I'd like to come down and talk to you about this." Now, Ed had in mind that he wanted Michael to direct the pilot. He'd watched several episodes of Bonanza, particularly an episode called The Wish of Bonanza that was very moving to him. He and Natalie had sobbed through this episode. And he wanted Michael to direct the pilot. He thought that Michael was a wonderful up-and-coming director. He talked to his friend Lauren Green. Ed and Lauren Green were in horse racing together. Lauren had extolled Michael's virtues as a director. Michael came down, sat down. If you knew Michael Landon at all, there was no way Michael was pussyfooting around about what he wanted to do. So not only did he want to direct this, but he was crystal clear in that conversation that he wanted to star in it as well. Now, Michael had just come off 14 years of Bonanza, and he had a pay-or-play deal at NBC. So they had to have either NBC and Michael were going to agree on an idea that they would do together, or they were going to owe Michael a lot of money. So they were looking for the thing that Michael would do. And Michael decided that this is what he wanted to do. And he and Ed went into NBC. They both NBC and Michael had 2 strikes of their 3 strikes. And Michael said, "This is it, or write me a check for $2 million. So, and at the time, today, $2 million is a lot of money. It was a huge amount of money then. So they said, "Let's make the show." And I don't think NBC had high hopes for it. As Michael said in his comments that the network thought it was a dog. The audience didn't. The audience, the people who they sat at the preview house in Hollywood and watched this pilot, and it tested through the roof. It was the highest testing pilot that NBC had ever had. And it went on the air in March of 1974. They bought it 7 days later, 22 episodes for a first season, 7 days later. And Michael set off on the journey of his career, crafting stories about the human experience, using this world of Walnut Grove as the sort of the centerpiece of it all. And it's obviously 50 years later, the rest is history. Michael knew. Now here, Michael's been gone for 33 years now. 34 years it'll be this year. And he said to many of us, people will be watching this show long after we're all gone. He knew it. And if you knew Michael, you knew how certain he was about the things he was certain about. He knew this was going to work. And so I think as his son said, this is the centerpiece of the show is the centerpiece of his legacy. And I think it's I think we'd all agree, it is a wonderful mixture or a melding together of what Laura wrote and Michael's storytelling, which was emotional in nature. Laura wrote about what the family did. Michael wrote about how they felt about it. And the two things go together really beautifully.
And I can just tell you from being in Hollywood in the 70s, absolutely everyone at NBC, when he said, this is what I want to do and I want to be Charles Ingalls, and everyone that he said, and they'll be watching this after we're all gone, everyone thought he had lost his mind. No one believed it. Everyone said, oh, he's really lost it this time. He wants to do Little House on the Prairie and he's going to play Pa. And then, of course, he said, I'm going to do Highway to Heaven and play an angel. And they thought he'd really snap then. But many, many people in Hollywood thought Michael Landon was absolutely crazy. I said, no, he's out of his mind. You can't do that. That's not going to work. And he was right every single time. So there we go.
Yeah. Jonathan, I'm curious. You've been living with this frame by frame of this for certainly the editorial process for 6 months, 8 months, putting this together. What did it teach? What did you learn about Little House from this experience? You obviously loved it, but what did you learn shooting all of these interviews at all of these places? What comes to you?
So Fred Rogers is like a huge hero in our house, and he very famously, when he was recognized, said that it's incumbent on anybody that has any sort of platform to show the importance of kindness, right, and goodness. And I think the thing that bleeds through all of this is the value of that way of living and how that can impact people in a very real and tangible way. Like, that has the ability to change people's lives, you know, being kind and being good. And you see this as you kind of go around through this play. I mean, look, we were out there filming at Walnut Grove, and the fan base is so rabid. My little boy, who you see in there in the red shirt and the hat, he's very cute, Ben, who's in the nursery now. And then Joel is out there. Joel's hanging out with us behind the scenes when you guys are signing autographs. And there's lines of people in the heat. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
I know.
And there are women that come and goes, can we take pictures with the little boy? I was like, Joel? They're like, yeah. He's like, I'll do it, Dad. And there are people that are just so into this, and it's really, really powerful, and it's yeah, I mean, it was really cool to just kind of watch it and watch. I think we've been through like 25 revisions of this thing. My kids can quote all the dialogue. But it is. We need more kindness and goodness and hope in our world, and I think that's what this really represents.
One last question before we sit. Olin, What would you like to ask?
Whatever does Olin want to know?
What is this? Is this your...
So this is not a question,
Okay.
but
Oh, it's a
I wanted
comment.
to do a presentation for somebody. So I want to call Anna up here, please. Our narrator.
Oh, where's Anna?
Anna,
Is she in the nursery?
Joel, can you fetch Anna, buddy? You come up too.
Oh, look at you, buddy. Wow. Artistic director for the 50th anniversary celebration in Simi Valley. Anything that was visual that you saw, that anyone saw at that event, Olin created. And it was, so what's happening here, Joel?
I think he's representative, or you representative,
Are you coming up on the stage, or can you come over here? So where is Anna?
Where is Anna? Do we know?
Oh, shoot, I don't forget.
It has become a big part of the Little House family, and he was drawing Laura, 3 Faces of Laura, in the film that we just watched. And Olin, what do you have for Anna?
So first of all, I want to thank Dean Butler because he was the guy filming me.
Yes, I shot
a
you,
beautiful
yes.
job as our, I guess, assistant director. But I wanted to present this to Anna. Anna, can I read this?
Yes, you can.
Dear Anna, you were the inspiration for this project. Thank you for your love of Laura Ingalls Wilder and making all this possible, from Olin Paz. And this is the result of
Thank you, Olin. Oh, what do you have to say, Joel?
I would also like to ask a question.
Oh, you'd like to ask a question, okay?
This is probably a question for Allison, but I've seen the episode, I think this is the 2nd season, The Camp Out.
Yes.
The one where Nellie Olsen and Laura fall into the river. Yes, and they're all wailing. I also have seen the part where Mrs. Olsen actually is trying to like jump that little stream.
And she falls back in the water.
Yeah, and she like goes limp. And then Nelson's all like, have you broken anything? She's like, only the T-shirts, dear. And,
Is there a question here, Joel?
But how like scary was it for you guys to be doing like the river?
So Joel is asking about the river scene in The Camp Out where Laura and Nellie are floating down the Stanislaus River, freezing in this water. Allison, what about that?
Stanislaus River is a very, very big river up there in Northern California and quite dangerous. People go there to shoot the rapids, and there are many injuries and even deaths. It is a very dangerous river, but people do it. They shoot the rapids. They're professionals. And it's gorgeous, great fishing, but it is dangerous. And they initially were going to have us even go over a small waterfall, but they tested it out with dummies on the thing, and the heads came off. And they said, we're not going to do
Whoopsie.
that part. And so they said, yeah, maybe not. So then they had a log, but that rolled over on the prop man and almost killed him. So we had the raft thing, the thing. So already they had 2 strikes. They said, this is too dangerous to do. So they said, well, we'll do this. So they had the stunt women do part of it. And we're like, okay, good. And they said, well, you girls are getting in. So we had wetsuits on under our clothes because the water was so cold. The reason sometimes people didn't make it out of it, your chest would go, you just couldn't. So we'd have the wetsuit and the clothes, and we're hanging on, and they had like a fire hose of water in our face, and then we had to swim a tiny distance, very shallow. They said, you just have to get from here to here. That's the only part you actually have to do. It's like dangerous. And we said, okay, but it's not far. And they said, but if you lose your footing and you are caught in the water, which is an extraordinarily strong current, we have guys in the bushes, our crew, waiting to catch you. I said, great. And they said, now there's a rope across the river. You grab that. If there's a problem, they will get you. Got it. And now if you miss that, we have a second rope about 15 feet further down with more guys in the bushes. We said, great. And they said, and if you miss that, we pick up your bodies in the next town. Because that was the waterfall after that, and there was like nothing they could do. So they said, don't lose your footing. Okay, just don't. And don't miss that first rope. And luckily we survived. But yes, we got official stuntmen's patches when we were done because it was actually that dangerous a stunt.
Now I'm glad that That mosquito never got out of the schoolroom.
Was also the vines you guys are holding on to, were those real vines?
No, we had a inner tube, an inflatable inner tube, then covered with real branches, and we hung on to that, which was much safer than the log that they were going to use, which did not work at all.
So thank you for that, Allison. Very nice. One last question. And did you have a question, Mary?
Yeah, you said something about a cookbook.
Sorry?
Oh, cookbook, yes. So there's a Little House cookbook. You can get it on Amazon. You can also get it on littlehouseontheprairie.com, and then it's linked there. And there's all these recipes that, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Some of them need a little modernization, okay? I've been making, yeah, me and Allison had a whole conversation about this last night. I was like, some of them need a little, we have technology now. We can use it. So when you're making some of these recipes, they're so fun to make, and they are based on the books. So so much fun. There's homemade ice cream.
You made that online?
I did, yeah. You can go to the Little House on the Prairie's Instagram, Facebook,
Can they buy the cookbook from you?
No, from me directly.
Oh, is it for sale at the museum in
That's right.
Mansfield?
Oh, there it is.
The cookbook is written
Reverend
by a
knows.
woman named Barbara Walker, who is a food historian, and she did a beautiful job collecting this. And yes, you can watch Jennifer making recipes from the Little House cookbook online.
Yes, I'm working on making more and more of them, but trying to just get some video footage out there so that you guys can see the simplicity of it, and then use some modern technology along the way.
Premiere of Little House Homecoming. Thank you, Jonathan, for your beautiful film. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
And hi to our friends in the back, Miss Pam Royland.
Yes, we have other members of the Little House family. Sarah Carter is in the back.
Baby Rose, Toddler
Rose, baby.
All the babies.